Good morning.
All right, recording in progress. We are
Yes, indeed.
live. Morning.
Morning. No more Mitobutsu.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
Sorry,
good to see you.
sorry I was a bit late. It took me a bit longer to get ready this morning.
Oh, no.
I couldn't sleep last night because I had one too many teas, one too many cups of tea because my in-laws were over yesterday afternoon for a bit. So, and maybe just one cup of tea too many in the afternoon, early afternoon is enough.
Yeah, it'll mess up your whole sleep cycle.
Yeah,
At least
exactly.
it does for me.
And when it comes to pretty much the effect of anything that is like that, so if it's caffeine, it has double effect. Whatever it is, it has double effect. That's how it used to be with alcohol too. I don't drink anymore. Because in that way, at least I'm trying to be a good Buddhist. But yeah, even that was a double effect. Anything that was mood altering impact had double the effect on me anyway. So for better or for worse. some would be jealous of that. Others would have compassion for that. So anyway, so yeah.
I just got off the phone with Shinkin Fujihara, the resident.
Yeah, excellent.
And it seems that all of the materials for the Tokudo application are now in place, yes. And it will be submitted within this next week. So excellent. That's one milestone achieved.
Done. Yes, very good. Very, very good. Very, very exciting. Thank you for the update. I love that is it Fujihara Sensei that's sponsoring you?
Yeah, he is. I will be actually taking Tokudo under his temple. So I will be a priest serving as a member of Sairakuji, basically. But I live very far from Izumo City, where Sairakuji is. I'll only be probably visiting, a few times a year, and then the rest will be online. And actually, what we're doing here, Fujihara Sensei said, it would really be great if if we did these talks, these discussions, but I, wore the Wagesa.
Yes, and, exactly.
And he said it would be, so amazing.
Yeah, exactly. I agree, 100% agree wholeheartedly. Sorry, trying to think of the Riker line, the Commander Riker. Yes, affirmative. I wholeheartedly. Yes, absolutely. I concur wholeheartedly. I didn't want there to be any doubt.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah. Speaking of references, yeah. I kind of wanted to catch up on some of my references. All these references I thought of at the time when we were having various discussions. It was probably about 3 or 4 or 5 different conversations we had where I thought of these, these references, but I didn't want to bring either. I didn't want to bring it up at the time to disrupt the flow of the conversation, or because I was trying to listen to what you were saying intently, because I didn't want to lose the train of thought of what we were discussing. I just let that go out of my mind, as it were, and I never came back to it, type of thing. So yeah. So, but I still want to to bring them up at some point, because I just thought they'd be entertaining. Plus, they would give us a chance to discuss perhaps another angle of the topic, another aspect of the topics we had discussed. So what do you think?
Yeah.
Do you want to go with that? Or
Right.
another topic I've been thinking about discussing for a long time, for a very long time, is the whole question about the whole Buddhist question about vegetarianism. You know, and what the sort of teaching or implications of the teaching or the guidance is or the attitude is for Jodo Shinshu, Hung Wanji, Jodo Shinshu, types of things. So that was the other idea for a topic I had, and perhaps we could do both, because I don't know if the other one will take a very long time.
Absolutely.
So one of the references that I had was about that came to mind was when we were discussing the metaphor or the analogy of the treasure, the treasure, the hidden treasure that took, an arduous journey to get to in this remote area. And we get there, and and it's supposed to be analogous to the Shinjin, the path of Jodo Shinshu, the Dharma, of Jodo Shinshu, and when it was raised in the context of the question I had about urgency. So if it's up to AMida, why all the urgency? And then we kind of reframed it and flipped it. The Jodo Shinshu did the Jodo Shinshu flip on what urgency was all about. And it was kind of came down to, where you've made this arduous journey, and it'd be like, why are you gonna, it'd be as if you got to this journey with mountains of treasure, and then you went, nah, I think I'll come back.
Exactly.
So the analogy of so why made this, there's an arduous journey through many countless lifetimes since beginningless past, in various forms and various provisional existences of suffering, and then AMida arranging stored good from the past through our own karmic causes and conditions, and all this times, and then we get there, and then we decide not to start stuffing our pockets with the Dharma treasure, or the Dharma storehouse, or allow, the thing I thought of was, it's not even, it's that the treasure's like enveloping us everywhere, actually. So, we did this arduous journey, I talk about this arduous journey. Well, the treasure came to us, actually. This is another thing I wanted to say. The treasure came to us, actually. We didn't really kind of go anywhere for the most part. It's mostly they got delivered. We got this delivery of this treasure storehouse of merit and dharma, and from AMida, and it's come to our door, actually, and surrounds our whole house, and we're gonna go, nah, I think it'll always be out there. It'll be outside there. I'm not gonna worry about it. But anyway, so anything you want to kind of say about that? Kind of what the urgency comes from. Don't miss this. It's more like, don't miss this opportunity. We kind of decided, and the urgency was more that it's the Buddha's urgency. It's their urgency. That's and then the other thing is that it's the urgency comes from, okay, we're in the burning house. Our house is burning. We're surrounded by treasure that's been delivered to us free of charge, with no effort on our part, and our house is burning, and we're not, and that treasure could also protect us, and we're not going to go, running to the, running and diving into the treasure, and the urgency comes from the burning house, where it's literally, like, it's literally that's the fire under arse is the burning house. He has a,
Yeah.
you need to light, the urgency of light a fire under your arse, like let's get going. But it's more like, well, we already have the fire, we already have
Right.
the burning. That's what's lit a fire in our arse.
Right.
That's the urgency, So
And what is the fire? What is the fire?
our own ignorance, our own, it's the samsara, it's the wheel of death and rebirth, it's the suffering, ignorance, the three poisons, and
Yeah.
all that kind of creates
Bongo, right?
in our consciousness and our collective, and collective, individually and collectively, our mind stream. It's basically it's the is that right? Did I say that right or frame that right?
Well, I think to say it even more simply, it's the fire, the burning house is our well, what's sometimes called blind passions in English, or bono. I mean, that's the fire, And there's a famous the fire sermon that the Buddha Shakyamuni gave, right, where he talks about the eyes on fire, and the senses are on fire, and the touch is on fire, the whole thing is on fire.
Yeah, well, it's called Saha world, that kind of that encompasses everything. It's the Saha world. Our entire realm is the Saha. Where we are located in samsara is the Saha world. It's the
right.
Yeah.
This is it, actually. Maybe I should try to share this.
Doesn't Saha mean the burn? Isn't that what it means? The burning.
Saha means the world of endurance.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a cool. Okay. Oh, okay. No, that makes sense. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Some reason I thought that they were equivalent. The burning house was the burning.
Well, they're often in a phrase, right? The burning house of this Saha world.
True. That's probably where I got that. But yeah, the world that it definitely fits as well. But yeah. So go ahead, continue. Yeah.
Well, maybe I should share the fire sermon. I do have it here.
Yeah.
So that could. Where does this idea of the house being on fire come from? It comes from Shakyamuni's teaching. Let me see. Okay, share screen.
This burning house.
Oh, it looks like I can't share yet.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Bear with a moment. Change the settings. There we go. Should be able to go now.
Okay, let me give that a try. This is from Access to Insight, which is I'm sure a site that you are well familiar with. Yeah. So, okay, is it visible?
Yes, I can see, yes.
Okay, great. So this is actually from Access to Insight, which is a Theravada affiliated site that provides suttas, Pali suttas from the Pali canon. So basically what we call the Nikayas. This is the scriptures of Nikaya Buddhism, sometimes called the early Buddhist scriptures, or in Chinese, they're called the Agamas, and in Japanese, it's the Agonkyo. So, but these are, among scholars believe to be, of course, among the earliest recorded, written Buddhist scriptures in Muslim. Although we have to be careful of the assumption that the Pali canon is earlier than other similar texts, which were also contemporaneous with it, but that's a whole other topic. Anyway, so the Adita Pariyaya, the Sutta, the fire sermon, in thus have I heard, thus I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One, Shakyamuni Buddha, was living at Gaya Sisa, together with 1,000 bhikkhus, or monks. There he addressed the bhikkhus. Bhikkhus, all is burning. And what is the all that is burning? The eye is burning, forms are burning. Eye consciousness is burning. Eye contact is burning. Also, whatever is felt as pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant, that arises with eye contact for its indispensable condition, that too is burning. Burning with what? Burning with the fire of lust, with the fire of hate, with the fire of delusion. I say it is burning with birth, aging, and death, with sorrows, with lamentations, with pains, with griefs, with despairs. And then he continues on. So the ear is burning, sounds are burning, the nose is burning, the tongue is burning, the body is burning, the mind is burning. But this right here, the key, burning with what? Burning with the fire of lust, with the fire of hate, with the fire of delusion. And these are the three poisons. Right?
3 poisons. Yep. Said, yeah.
Translated here as lust, but does sometimes translated as greed, craving.
Yeah.
The fire of hate or aversion.
Yeah.
And then
exactly.
of course the fire of delusion or ignorance. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I usually call them. It's 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 attraction, aversion, attraction, aversion, or craving, aversion, ignorance or delusion. Yeah, in my mind, that's kind of what I hear when I hear greed, and anger, greed, hate, and delusion. But anyway.
And so this is the fire, right? It's the 3 poisons, the bono, the blind passions, if you will, although I'm not a huge fan of that translation. I think the kleshas are, is what it is. The defilements or the fetters of ignorance and aversion and hatred and desire, craving. And we had an interesting conversation about this where we discussed, the thinking about it from the point of view of, from the perspective, of science, of evolutionary biology, even if you go way back, millions and millions, billions of years, well, millions, I guess.
Billions and billions and billions. Speaking of references,
to the very first
billions and billions. Yeah,
exactly.
Go ahead.
To the very first life forms, whatever those were.
Yeah.
Even those very first, comparatively simple life forms, swimming around. If you've ever looked under a microscope, and seen the little creatures, the little paramecium and things.
It's already
going here and there, and also busy. What are they doing? They're looking. They're craving.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
They're averting. Things that are bigger than them that can eat them.
Trying to defend themselves or that threaten their source of food or ingestion or whatever it is they did, or osmosis or whatever their process of getting their nutrients in. Yeah.
And of course, ignorance is the basic state of our situation. So kind of interesting.
They don't even know why they're doing it. They just this is what we're kind of programmed to do, and they're just
right.
And they don't know that they're paramecium floating around in whatever they're floating around in. They just all they know is I want, I need, run.
Yeah.
Hide.
And I've always thought
build.
there's a pathos, I think, when you see those little tiny creatures
Mm.
that are probably not even, aware of their own existence in the sense that we are as human beings. And yet, each has its little life, it's because they are living beings, right? And when you think about the great compassion of the Buddha, each and every one of those countless, incalculable nayutas of kotis of living beings is special and precious to the Buddha. The Buddha looks at all beings everywhere as his only child. So just sort of, I always thought, wow.
Yeah, and sees and knows every single one.
Yeah.
And if you think not just every single one of their provisional existences, and all of every single one of their every thought, every down to the minutest thought moment. Anyway, yeah. Which gives a whole new perspective when you think about 3,000. Yeah, was it 3,000 thoughts in a single moment of time? From the Lotus Sutra. The Nichiren, the Tendai teaching. Yeah. But anyway.
So what I wanted to say about this is where, this sutra is where the burning house comes from.
I love that. It also leaves no stone unturned, like nothing, no stone unturned.
Yes, exactly.
Everything is burning.
Yeah, including the mind.
Including the mind. Yeah.
And
I love that he just boils it right down to, the three, straight to the three poisons, which is where it's all. Anyway, yeah.
And the meaning of, the attainment of nirvana is sometimes referred to as extinction, right? And this, or metsudo in Chinese, in Japanese, but also in Chinese. This has been a source of great confusion and perplexity for Westerners coming to Buddhism from a background of Western philosophy and science, because it sounds, for one thing, the translation extinction, like, I don't want to be extinct, I don't want to be extinguished. And there's, many, a long-running misunderstanding of Buddhism is that somehow we, become, that it's a kind of nihilism, like we cease to exist as such.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what that's the perception of if someone doesn't understand Buddhism.
Right.
Yeah.
But the true meaning of nirvana, or metsudo in Japanese, is the extinguishment of our blind passions, of Bono. And once these kleshas, these defilements are extinguished, we become Buddha. We are a Buddha. That is the whole meaning and goal of Buddhism, right? So what is extinguished in nirvana? It's not myself, but the blind, first the blindness of ignorance, and then the hatred, the delusion, the greed, the anger, all of the kleshas, all of those are extinguished, and that is the meaning of nirvana. So
exactly, and the egoic provisional self that we perceive, the intractable, ego identity, and identifying with, this body, this mind, this life, that all that is extended, that aspect of the self, that the delusion of self. But it really what's extinguished is what's keeping us from seeing the true kind of reality, if you want to call it that, the true Buddha nature, the true Buddha nature of things that actually is the true Buddha nature, the true Buddha reality, the true Buddha mind. So all it's extinguishing is just what's, blocking us from experiencing that as it is, experiencing reality and life and things as they actually are. It's just the extinguishing of the lie that we have created for ourselves, not the lie, but the self-deception, or what would you call it? The illusion, the delusion, yeah. So in that sense, I would say there is some of what we think of as the self, what we identify with as the self, quote unquote, the provisional self, or that gets constructed from our karmic causes in each provisional existence, each rebirth. That is extinguished, but not our Buddha nature, not our true nature, our true mind is not the true. Do you see what I mean? Is that?
Yeah, and I would say too, what is done away with is our, like you mentioned, the delusion of ourselves as independently existing selves, right? That is the delusion, rather than the truth, which is the dependent origination of all things. That is the truth that we're missing. And it's enough. It's not enough.
The implications of the experience of the three. It's not. I can't remember what the actual Sanskrit term is, but of the three. I don't know if it's not really states, but of the Buddha. So you've got the Dharmakaya, which is Dharma nature, sunyata, suchness, the ultimate reality, the ultimate. And then the Buddha's take on a Dharmakaya, Dharmakaya form, or that's called is that the transformation body? No, that's the reward body. Sorry, the reward body, the Dharmakaya, the reward body, like Amida, and other enlightened beings that like like Amida, so that we can actually form that we can actually beings can actually interact with and want to wish to go to
well,
and then the Nirmanakaya forms, the countless Nirmanakaya forms of in every universe, in every where they can appear as anything, and so but the implication is they're all Dharmakaya, all these Buddhas and all their different individuated, if you want to say it that way, forms, Dharmakaya forms Dharmakaya forms and Nirmanakaya forms are all ultimately actually Dharmakaya. so if we're Buddha nature as well, if we have Buddha nature, the implications is we are Dharmakaya, ultimately as well. So there, and then that sense, there's you lose, and we're able to actually get that, when the ignorance ceases, when the suffering ceases, when we become a Buddha, we actually can see, yes, we are these Buddhas, but we are actually Dharmakaya. It's all Dharmakaya, basically. So in that sense, that individuated, singular entity identity falls away as well, because you actually see that.
Yeah. Well, we become truly aware or awakened to our true nature and the true nature of all things, right?
Yeah. I like when the term is used, realize Buddhahood, rather than attain it. Realize Buddha, because I feel like that kind of is more what it is happening. You're realizing what was already there, kind of realizing. Then you're attaining some object that's out there that you're going after. You realize. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. And Amida, the infinite light of wisdom, is what all Buddhas awaken to. And that is why Amida is called, the teacher and the original Buddha of all Buddhas. It's interesting when the Bodhisattvas are telling, I forget what sutra, but they say, we practiced and practiced, and we just couldn't emerge from birth and death, the ocean of birth and death. And then we practiced the Nimbutsu Samadhi, and we were able to achieve and be awakened to Buddha. And so there is a sense in which all Buddhas, including Shakyamuni, of course, Shinran viewed Shakyamuni as the manifestation of Amida, right? So Shakyamuni is Amida's nirmana.
Yeah, exactly.
And one note about the Sambhogakaya, or the reward body, is specifically the reward body, I believe, as I have understood it, is the body that is or the body of fulfillment that is fulfilled by the Bodhisattva's vows.
Yes.
In reward to the fulfillment of his vows.
Yeah. I was going to bring that in there, but I just kept going with the thought I had. But that it's kind of the Bodhisattva reality, kind of the and it's also the way that it's like Bodhisattvas can see a realm, that reward realm, where and interact with Buddhas that humans could never interact with, in that way, and make all these offerings.
Unless the humans are Bodhisattvas, right?
Right. I meant ordinary humans, that we ordinary, unenlightened, foolish human beings. Yeah.
Exactly.
Foolish human beings.
Yes. So the house on fire image, I thought it was important to sort of look at, why the fire, and where does the fire come from, and then what is the extinguishment of the fire?
We didn't go into it in that depth in the episode I was thinking of, where we talked about the treasure metaphor. We did talk extensively about how that is the urgency. The burning house under our arse, is the, that's nipping at our bum, is the, not just nipping, it is our bum. it is our whole body. It's part of the burn. It is the burning out. Anyway, but you know what I'm saying. We were, using that metaphorically, but we didn't delve into this. So it's good. This is good that we came back to this and went into that. So, so the thing that came to mind when we were originally discussing this, one of the things that was there, and I wanted to show you something, but I didn't want it to distract, and then I just eventually let it go because was there's that moment where I think this feels like this, and there's times where I feel this way. I just just rest in it, just rest in the Buddha, rest in the treasure, rest in the Nambutsu, rest in the Dharma, the Jodo Shinshu teaching, just rest in that, and I do, I feel that, and it's just kind of like, there's not too much you have to do because the treasure is all around you. So I thought of Breaking Bad. Do you know the character Huel from Breaking Bad? Saul Goodman's security, the kind of heavyset guy.
Yeah,
Saul Goodman.
I don't remember very specifically, but yeah, keep talking because I'm sure.
And then one of Saul Goodman's other right hand men was played by Bill Barr, so you can imagine the hijinks and hilarity that ensued from those two characters together. And they at one point, I think the story is that at one point, like Walter had amassed so much money that they couldn't safely launder it even through the car wash and whatever they did. They just couldn't, like, and they couldn't store it. So he got a storage, one of these storage spaces, that's outside where you lift the thing, and so they go to the storage space and they lift the door and there's this giant pile of cash, wads of cash, just piled, very neatly, but just on those, on the pallets, like this massive, and they're just like, what the actual bleep, you know what I mean? And they walk in and they're like, and they're, and it made me think, all the calculations are like, they're thinking, the one guy's thinking, I mean, would he miss any? Yeah. And they're like, all these different, there's little schemes that come to their mind. But finally, they just decide, okay, we just got to move it. And then there's how are we going to move it? What's it, and how much damage has been done? Have they sprayed enough of the stuff to keep, there's these worms or whatever that can, and there's all this, I think that was like the calculations, and around the treasure, instead of just realizing the treasure that's there. Anyway, and at one point, Huel just looks at Bill Barr and says something like, I just got to do it. I just got to do it. And Bill Barr's like, what? And he just finally just lays back and falls on the money, falls and then Bill Barr does as well. And it's so funny. And it's just like, that's what it's like. All you have to do is just lay down. It's already around you.
Yeah.
Just lay down. That's, rest in the treasure, rest in the,
exactly,
so that came to mind, but I didn't want to disrupt the flow of the conversation for that. But even though it was pretty, it fit quite well, I thought. But and all the difficulty they had of getting to that, to the treasure, and anyway. So and also nobody could see it. This is another thing I wanted to come back to about that metaphor. That analogy. It was hidden treasure. So it was hidden in this. And nobody even knew it was there. It's it's just in it's just an ordinary storage place. People walking past it all the time, and not knowing there's this treasure just behind that door. For 6 feet behind that door, there's this treasure. And so that kind of fits as well. But the other thing I thought, just getting away from the reference now, back to the actual analogy itself, is is that journey to this place we were talking about is this remote place on this mountain. There's this mountain of
Yeah.
treasure. We find it, da da da. I was thinking, thought occurred to me in the months since that, it maybe like an analogy of it's in a remote city maybe somewhere, because there's people all around. There's people all around, but you get, this is another aspect of the urgency or the opportunity is there's people all around. You're like, I see this treasure over here. Nobody else seems to be, only a very few people seem to be noticing it or even bothered that it's there. They might notice it and go, yeah, well, it doesn't mean anything to me. Or they might have heard there's this treasure, they might have heard the name of Shinshu or AMida Buddha, but they just don't, oh, that's just the Buddhism or something, or it's one of those funny religions, it's one of those, superstitions, or, you know what I mean? And they just, or don't even notice it. And here we are, we notice, for some reason, we're at the right angle of the city, of our, maybe we were a parkourist. We've got good parkour. We can get to this spot on the building where we actually can see this, where nobody else can see it, and that's another aspect of that don't miss this opportunity, because you now see it, where the vast majority of human beings are not, other beings don't.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah.
This treasure's in the middle of this hustle and bustling city, which is kind of like our lives. It's the distractions. Oh, there's food over here, and there's, I got to get to my job in the city here, and I gotta, and there's the subway, and the underground, and I gotta run here, I gotta go there. Do you know what I mean? And there's this treasure sitting just silently, beautifully gleaming. It's there for anyone could have this treasure. There's no there's no guards, there's no barriers, it's just, and anyway. So that occurred to me. Is that worth discussing? I think, or does that bring in other teachings or aspects of?
Well, I think what you described is, sort of how you feel as a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist is, we have this amazing teaching that's just so, and this religion that's so beautiful, so deep, so profound, so meaningful and true. To me, obvious, obvious. And I couldn't, that this is the teaching for me, personally speaking, right? But then other people aren't necessarily, attracted to it, or they may even know about it and just not. And I've seen people on the internet, they come and go, and it doesn't seem to matter how much you share or you put the words of Shinran out there. It just kind of goes through their heads, kind of, and so, and that's fine.
Because like they hear you're a Buddhist, and they automatically have a whole, and they might even be really interested in that you're a Buddhist. The whole sorts of, sets of meanings of what that is in their mind, which I don't try to. I just let that be, and then I just say, eventually it might come around to, I say, well, I'm Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, and I'll say, and we focus on a particular, there's a particular Buddha that we focus on, Amitabha Buddha, I just see where it goes, because I'm always mindful of that. Be careful, from the kind of show, and other passages, other of our sacred texts that say, Shinran, that caution us about discussing or disclosing or fully with people who might misunderstand. So I let the opportunity present itself kind of, because then I feel like, okay, well then maybe the karmic, the karmic conditions, are ripe if it presents itself for me to say more type of thing in that conversation. And then I do. And so then I'll eventually say, but when I hit that point where I start to, okay, meet up, oh, interesting, yeah, we go to that particular Pure Land and, focus on, it has to do with the particular Pure Land. And, but if they say, what's the difference? And I try to explain, well, think of what you think of as Buddhism, the practices, this, this really, heroic effort that Buddhists make to in practice and to study the teaching, to learn the teaching, then to practice it, and then to have realizations from that, and then to well, it's ours is the other way around. the Buddha, it's all the Buddha doing it for us, and then transferring his mind to us, his merit to us, kind of thing. And I express it in different ways given the context, but that's where they start to go, okay, that's different than what I thought of as Buddhism. I said, like saying all that work's being done, all that practice that you think of, that's being done, but it's already done by the being that became Amitabha, and now that's all. He's all transferring it to us rather than us practicing and transferring merit to other beings and transferring. It's anyway, but they get that look, and that's where I just say, you should just look into it for yourself. I take it as far as I start to see that, that, and if it's not just that they're not, if they're asking the right, the right kind of question, then I'll go on. Do you know what I mean? But I don't want to, and I also don't want to leave them with the wrong impression either. But I just say, start with Buddhism and then go from, start with whatever you think of as Buddhism and go from there. I usually say start with, the 3 marks of existence, because pretty much every school of Buddhism, they all embrace that. They might interpret it differently, slightly differently, but start there, and then and eventually you'll come around to Pure Land Buddhism. What that's so that sort of thing. But there's a point where even if they're interested in Buddhism, they go, okay, that's not, you know what I mean? It's a little bit too different. What they thought of as Buddhism, so they don't want to. Do you see what I mean? Somehow.
Totally.
So even if you have that conversation, there's still that. Nah, I'm not gonna go. I don't really look at that treasure, and I want this other, this other stuff of these tools, these carts. I want these carts over here. I don't want this free treasure. I'll take these carts that I have to work for to even get a horse for, and then get, and then start to explore within the carts. I don't want this free treasure. Anyway.
And that's funny, because that's that person's stage of spiritual development, right?
Definitely. Wasn't judging or anything. It's just that's where they're at, so I let that be where it is. But it's the thing of, as a Shinshu Buddhist, like you're saying, we feel it's kind of like, do we really, like, and me as a person of not quite settled Shinjin, or Shinjin still arising, type of thing, I'm like, do I really have this, do I really have this, like the ultimate, this is like the secret, man, this is the ultimate, you know what I mean, knowledge, and like nobody else seems to, most other people just don't, and even people in Jodo Shinshu, don't really realize what they've got, the amazing, teaching and Dharma that we have is just kind of, there might be a cultural thing to them, or an
Yeah.
unattainable thing, or something in their perception is
Right.
other than what it actually is. So yeah, but it is the Jodo Shinshu life is an interesting one. I'm sure people of other very devout people of other religions feel similarly.
Oh yeah, I'm
About
sure.
their beliefs, their faith, when they really embrace it and they're actually getting, the benefits of that. And,
Right.
they must think, how can people not see this? Like how, even within their own religion too,
Yeah.
how can they not, I'm sure they feel similarly, but anyway, but that is how it, feels like. You've got this, you're in the, just there's this pile of mountain of treasure in the middle of the city, hustling, bustling city, and nobody wants it or sees it or pays any attention to it, or,
Yeah. It's it feels almost as if you could say that Jodo Shinshu is kind of like the best kept secret of Buddhism.
Yes,
It doesn't seem
exactly.
I think part of it is
Exactly.
Part of the problem is access, simply. I mean, even though we do have so many wonderful translations now, so people can read, Shinran's writings, they can read the three Pure Land Sutras for themselves in English. There are a lot of subpar presentations of those of the Shinshu teaching that I think turn people off to some unfortunately,
Yeah. Oh, definitely. There's no doubt. Unfortunately, yeah.
So it's silly to say, well, it's not, nobody's pointing any fingers, right? There's no blame.
Yeah, no.
It is an unfortunate fact that there are less than, correct
presentations of the treasure.
Yeah. Starting with, the fact that the primal vow is not a set of conditions, that we have to fulfill. It's not a checklist.
Yeah.
Say my name, wish to be born, have faith, wish to be born in the Pure Land. Jana is not what it is. Rather,
you're frozen. You froze there for a second. Yes, yeah. Sorry, can you say it again? It might not come out on the actual recording, but yeah, can you just say that again just in case?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
the conditions you were talking about. Yeah, so that people present, they present the teachings as conditions in some way. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, specifically the text of the vow, which we should get to, would be a great topic, but it's not a conditional thing. AMida salvation is not conditional. It doesn't depend on things that we do, right? And what the vow is it's showing how we experience the encounter with the truth of AMida.
Yes.
The truth of the name. It's not laying out a checklist of requirements to be born in the Pure Land. But that's how it's misunderstood by a lot of, as you know, no doubt.
No, exactly. Or that, it's like a checklist that, well, if you and it's often used, well, do you believe that Pure Land is a real place? Do you believe Amida Buddha is a real Buddha? Do you entrust him? Do you know what I mean? They go through this. It's similar to, I've heard a similar checklist with the fundamentalist Christians.
Right, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Where they say, so have you lied in your life? Yes, I say you're a liar. Have you, do you know what I mean? And then they say, would you say that, they go through this whole list, you're a liar, you're a thief, do you know what I mean? Like, and then they go, so so would you say that you're a sinner? Are you unjust? And I go through this whole, it's like this checklist, and they do it on,
Right.
they do it in these street interviews, it's Cameron, what's his name? Cameron, that actor, and his kind of mentor used to do it.
Mhm.
Anyway, but yeah, it's similar to that. That's how it comes across to me when somebody does that with me, and might be very well meaning, from
Right.
their, but I find it unhelpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, I find that I've always found that an unhelpful approach when somebody who does, like, well, wait, I've already told you I'm coming from, I have very secular doubts. I have very, like,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
West would be considered rational, you know what I mean?
Right.
Secular,
Oh, we all do.
cynical, philosophical, pessimistic views here. So
Mhm.
that's not, you're coming at this. That would help if somebody already had a strong, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
I'm not
Strong conviction.
anywhere near that where I was with all that, by the way.
Yeah.
I feel like
Good.
I feel like, yeah, let's just say I feel like Shinjin is arising quite
Mm,
strongly. Um,
wonderful.
and in spite of that, still in my mind, like I said at the other session. But
Yeah.
what was I saying? So, it's like that similar kind of check. It's that kind of that fun, like that is similar
Yeah.
to that Christian fundamentalist checklist thing that they go through to try to,
Right.
it's like a fake, it's like a false narrative or false options, a false dialogue. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It's like
To
these aren't
bring
the
you to a
only
certain,
options, right?
to bring you to a certain, do you know what I mean? And it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's, and so for someone like me, I see through that. I already
Right.
see that coming, like before they do it. So
Yeah.
that's that's trying to use your mind. First of all,
Yeah.
that's calculative thinking, to
Right.
use that as a checklist, or to use that as a checklist with somebody else to test whether they have faith or not, quote unquote faith, whether they have Shinjin or not, whether they, you know what I mean? That is, it's so anyway. Um, oh, there was something else I was going to say about that. So, oh yeah, it's similar to, so the 5 conditions that Renyo talks about for birth.
Hmm.
Is it Renyo, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Five.
I made
Five.
the point where it's more like,
He actually doesn't use the term. Well, I guess maybe he does say conditions. It's more
it's more like conditions like the environment, like the
like, right,
environmental
the
conditions,
fivefold
not conditions you
teaching.
have to
Yeah.
fulfill. It's
Right.
just that it's not the 5 conditions you have to fulfill. It's just the 5 kind of environmental
Yeah.
things that kind of have to be present.
Right.
The right in under the, you know what I mean?
The things that have to come together.
Yeah, the
So to speak.
elements. Yeah, that have
Yeah.
to kind of come together, but it's not like conditions you have to. Okay,
Mhm.
good causes from the past. Check. Okay, yeah, do I have good causes from the past? Okay, check. Do I have, you know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right. Yeah.
it's not.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
Anyways, so yeah, that definitely fits there. So, um,
Mm.
and that is one of the problems. So it's not, the treasure is hidden, not just because of, people's individual and collective kind of ignorance, or
Mm.
not having those conditions yet. That's the
Mm.
thing. That's the key thing. It's always, they don't see it yet. They,
Right.
in some provisional lifetime, they're going to see it.
Yeah.
At some point, it's gonna, you know, but
Mhm.
the it's also hidden because of things like we're just talking about. It gets obscured by divergences, or less than
Mhm.
good presentations of the treasure. When someone's
Right.
explaining the treasure,
Yeah.
something wrong with the PowerPoint. That they, or there's
Yeah. Yeah.
there's something wrong with the bullet points that they're using.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So my thought on the analogy you made is totally, yeah, that's exactly, I can totally relate to that. You know, analogy because I do feel that is the case. I think
one other little thing, bringing it back to my reference really quickly, is another thing. Like, I think Breaking Bad in general is a really good, like, it's very Buddhist. There's a lot of Buddhist, very light touch Buddhist things in it as you're going through. I don't know if that's on purpose or if it's just, because of the kind of minds of the people that are involved, who are former X-Files alumni, by the way. The production team for Breaking Bad is all pretty much, from 1013 Productions. But they, if that's accidental or if on purpose, but the whole situation of it is so samsaric, like the entanglement of, do you know what I mean? And what happened, that the conditions of Walter, this teacher, this physics teacher, who's just this ordinary guy who, he's just, he loves his family. He'll try to do anything for them, but he's kind of this teacher, and he got screwed over by his pal. So he's not rich and famous like his pal, but somehow there's these conditions are right for him to turn into what he becomes, this criminal mastermind. First of all, that, it's very, that, you know what I mean? That if the right conditions are there and the right karmic, causes are there, people are capable of anything, and that's what it turns into. Exactly. And the entanglements because of that, once he starts down that path, just how, do you know what I mean? And he's trying to be, still trying to just be a good father and family man, and do you know what I mean? And he's, and somehow he still thinks, like, it's the delusion too. He thinks he somehow is still a good, man and good husband and good father because he's trying to provide. Do you know what I mean? But he's becoming this really horrible, criminal mastermind. And there's this dual-mindedness, to it. There's this, but so it's just, and the entanglements that happen, and that's just the course of that brings those two to that moment that I talked about with the money in front of them. And there's this moment of pause, like, wow, wow, so it's just, to me, the whole show is there's a lot of Buddhist kind of aspects to it. Anyway, sorry, so go ahead. You're about to start to say something, I think, to kind of wrap things up a bit.
I guess
or just make one final point. I mean, we did start a little bit later, so we're only kind of at the hour now, so.
Right. I think, though, that the best way to share or to share the Dharma with people who are interested, right, is really to because I also struggle with this. It's not easy. I don't find it easy to share my spiritual world with other people, and so it's probably the most difficult part of me becoming ordained in
you're about to get over that hump pretty quickly.
But in these conversations that we have, I think I don't have it's very easy for me to share my understanding and my experience of the teaching. So for me, this is probably a good format to do that. And also, if I'm ever asked to, which I no doubt will be at some point, to give a Dharma talk at at a temple, then I really do have a lot of people who I sort of admire for some of the talks that they have given. And I think I would probably, want to offer something along those lines. I remember this talk, that it's on YouTube actually, but it's by Tetsuo Unno, the minister in the Buddhist Churches of America. But he's a wonderful person, and he gave a Dharma talk at Sacramento Buddhist Church, that's in Sacramento, my hometown, incidentally. But anyway, and he's giving a Dharma talk though for kids, and so he says, I'll get to the adults Dharma talk later, but first I'm going to talk to the kids. And he says, and he asks them, where are you the happiest? Where are you most happy? And he's and then he's trying to get them to reply. And it's like, are you the happiest in school? No, of course not. Of course not the happiest, in your classes. Are you the happiest in the temple? Because that would be this response that you think you want to hear. No, you have to sit up straight and quiet. No. Where are you the happiest? He asks them. And then he says, you're the happiest at home.
Yeah.
You're the happiest at home when you're at home. And he said, this is the whole teaching of Jodo Shinshu.
Yeah. Yes. That's so good.
I thought, that is so true.
It's so good. This is where I feel it.
Yeah.
This is about the only place I feel genuinely at home is when I'm discussing Jodo Shinshu, when I'm reading the text, when I'm involved in this, and it's the most important place for me. Just like our home in the temporal, sort of secular but deeply meaningful sense, and culturally or whatever, our home is the most important base and most important to us in terms of personal meaning and family and times where you can be alone or relax or be with friends or whatever it is. But this is my spiritual home. This is way high above the importance and comfort I feel in that, in this. I haven't always. There are times where I haven't. There are times where I haven't.
But the important
perhaps
thing,
because of some of the other visitors or occupants or
but ultimately, right? Why are we happiest at home? And of course, if the home is a good home and so on. But why are we the happiest? Because we can be ourselves. We can be who we are. We don't have to put on a facade. We don't have to pretend to be someone we aren't. And that is AMida. If you think that AMida is our.
He's trying to make us who we are. He's trying to help us be who he's trying to. That's part of Shinjin. That's you're born in Pure Land by becoming none other than our foolish selves. So that's part of what he's trying to accomplish in us is to be ourselves. So it kind of makes sense that Jodo Shinshu, you feel you can be yourself within.
And so for me, I find that is the best place to be when you're speaking or when you're trying to communicate or discuss or share the teaching of Shinshu is at home. and there's no, because
like we are when we're having these discussions. Literally.
Like in Tani's show, there's no nobody is above anybody else. We are all equal fellow travelers on this path, that we have to listen and respect each other, and share our journey together in this wonderful school or tradition that we have been bequeathed by the former those who have gone before. So speaking, I say on the one hand, it's sometimes I have difficulty, because I think what happens is you overthink. Someone asks, you might casually mention, I'm a Buddhist, right? And then someone will say, oh, that's cool. You must meditate every day.
Yeah.
And you're already, your mind is going, okay, well, this is that person's idea of what Buddhism is, right?
Yeah,
meditation.
Exactly.
But you start to get in your head and think, and try. But when to hear a Dharma talk like Reverend Uno gave, that's very simple, and anybody can understand that. And so I think we really need to ground ourselves, like Shinron says, my heart and mind being grounded on the Buddha, the ground of the Buddha wisdom, and let our thoughts and feelings flow into the ocean of the vow. I mean, that's very important, I feel. So
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it's very true. But there is part of me that wants to give a mind-blowing answer one day, though, to somebody that, when they find out you're Buddhist and they ask, something like, oh, so do you meditate? I want to say something like, well, the meditator has already been meditating for countless billions of trillions of kalpas of time and transferred all that merit to me. So I don't need to meditate.
No.
And I'm not capable of it. So I let that Buddha do that for me. And see what
that would happens. Probably make them take notice. Wow, what?
Exactly. But anyway, I would only do that. Like I said, I'm very careful. I try to read as much as any limited foolish being like me can read the karmic, whatever's happening in that situation with that person, whether how I should present it, or how in a more secular way I should maybe present it, or in a more religious way, or in a more metaphoric way, or whatever. I try to let so I would never just do that just for fun, but there is that temptation. I have to admit, there is that temptation. So I hope for that person that would appreciate it to have their mind blown like that.
Yeah, I think if someone was ready to have their minds blown, they may very well benefit or appreciate something.
Anyway, yeah. So one other thing I wanted to say about the breaking down, or I just remembered that I wanted to say. And I was saying about, I don't know whether I was going to add this to it, and I forgot to. I don't know whether they did the Buddhist thing on purpose, or whether it's just because of other. It's just because most of those guys, from what I've heard and read, most of the 1013 production team what they used to be, and that are now their own but are kind of pretty secular or atheistic or agnostic, or agnostic probably is the best way to put it. And they appreciate like science. So that was a big part of Breaking Bad. There's a lot of science symbolism through, not just in that he's a science teacher and physics, but in the actual stuff that's happening. There's a lot of science symbolism, and that he's volatile, and kind of like volatile reactions and things. So that Walter is, and it has this massive, chain reaction, into all these people's lives because of his, what I mean? Anyway, so I think in that sense, that might be partly why, because of that science, that sort of underlying science symbolism that they're using, that might have to do with why it feels very Buddhist in some ways, because because of the cause and effect. There's we've talked about that before, that except for the morality part, if you take science as far as it will go, I feel that you'll wind up at Buddhism. Whenever I look at science, I'm like, that's what Buddhism says. That's what Buddhism's talking when you go really down, the further you go down
There are
the
parallels for sure. Yeah.
to this, to the chemical, the microscopic, the molecular, the genetic, the chemical level, the subatomic level, beyond. Like you start, like the deeper you go and the implications of it, the more Buddhist it becomes. To me. So I wonder whether that is because of their science, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Cause
definitely.
effect and all those kinds of, the chain reaction, the entanglement, that it seems like that's the chain reaction stuff they're trying to portray. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that could very well be.
I guess, and this is part of being at home in Jodo Shinshu is, and in Buddhism, is you bring in these things that are part of your own interests and enthusiasm, and and for me, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are certainly a part of that, part of my my pop culture interests and enthusiasms, as it were. So
yeah, and there's a lot of interesting in films and in movies and so on. I mean, you sometimes will see an interesting parallel, and you'll think, oh wow, you actually notice something that you maybe wouldn't even have noticed if it wasn't for the Buddhist teaching and informing your viewing of it. So
exactly.
It's great.
It is.
Well,
so I think we just did the one today. So we did Breaking Bad, but the Breaking Bad metaphors in and analogies in to this one. We might be just a full might just do a full episode for the next one. We'll do a separate episode for each of the ones that I wanted to come back to.
Sure.
Yeah. I always wanted to do that, actually. I wanted to have a little TV and or film, series where, do you know what I mean? Where we
That'd be great.
Because it's been part of my journey. It has seeing those things. And I think Amida Buddha, is light reaching me through those things in some way, in some sense, but,
absolutely.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that we didn't get to the vegetarianism topic, although that is quite the broad ranging
implications. That could be a whole series of vegetarianism and other, that's more, I think that's more part of the bamboo life. That's a definite one for a bamboo life series.
I would agree.
Yeah. I think I'm going to do this one as a separate series, though, with the TV movie. Yeah. I've always kind of planned that. So I think this will be the first one I'll come up with a funny, interesting, tie it into the Dharma somehow, name for it. But,
very nice. I do think we should also, on the what was the series we have been doing? Shinjin, something special, right?
Shinjin, yes. Shinjin, something special. Yeah, exactly. Or Shinjin Rising. I was thinking of that. I was doing the title. It's something very dramatic like that. To emphasize this is something very special and amazing and incredible. Anyway, sorry.
That's a good series. I think we could also carry on from where we left off and discuss the chapter on Shinjin from Kyogyo Shinsho. Has some really good
definitely
things to dig into, especially where we are discussing how Shinran takes apart the meanings of
that's a running theme in our discussions. Very important one, I think.
Shingyo Yokusho, and then what does that mean, and so on. So lots of good stuff there. That really is kind of the core of Shinshu, doctrine, and so it's a good topic. And I did want to mention one thing about last discussion. We were talking about joy and the joy of Shinjin, right? And the relationship between joy and Shinjin. And I was reading a book on the Anjin Rondai just a day or two ago, where it's pointed out that there is the incorrect understanding is that that joy is the cause of being born in the Pure Land, rather than Shinjin. And we have Shinjin,
Right.
Shokin, Homyo.
Yeah.
Shinjin is the true cause, and then we say the name in gratitude to the Buddha's benevolence. But this particular misunderstanding is referred to as Kangi Shoin. So joy is the true cause. But as we discussed, there's a distinction. Joy is the aspect.
Response. It's the response. It's more of a response to Shinjin. It's a response to the Dharma. It's not the vehicle. It's not the cause. Yeah. It's more of a response or an aspect. Yeah, as you say, of the Buddha mind. So if you have Shinjin, you have the Buddha. That's an aspect of the And it's so not, but it's not the cause of birth. It's not the cause of salvation. It's not the cause of salvation. And what I immediately think of is the happy clappy Jodo Shinshus. The email group that it was all self-written hymns and praise Amida, and the whole thing was just most of it was like happy. That's why the happy clappy churchianity. This is happy clappy Jodo Shinshu. Where they think somehow, well, if I put on the joy, somehow then I have Shinjin somehow. That's the evidence I have Shinjin. Somehow I need to, 1 second. I just need to turn my power on. I just realized.
Sure.
I plugged my computer in, but hadn't turned on the actual outlet. here in the UK. I don't know if it's like that in Japan. There's a switch on every outlet.
Oh, okay.
We don't have that. Like a little, like a light switch type of thing. Only just for the outlet. And I plugged it in, but forgot to switch the outlet on. So, but anyway, so yeah, there's that. You did see what I mean? I'm just, I'm so happy, and they emphasize this. It's. Do you see what I mean? It's almost.
Well, it's self-confined.
Like they're trying to convince themselves,
exactly.
Yeah.
But the other problem you have is when people don't have joy, and then they try to convince themselves that that's perfectly fine, and there's no issue there at all either. So there's a lot of problems and pitfalls, let's say, on the.
There's times where I've talked about that, where I'm like, well, I'm not really experiencing joy. So what's the problem here? Like, what am I doing or not doing, or why is that? Am I actually experiencing joy and I don't realize it, or but I've dealt with that kind of issue in my in our discussions, which I feel like has been kind of resolved for me in the process.
Yeah, we had some really good discussions
in the process of the dialogue, but and the thing is, I've had a lot of my own, struggles and convincing myself I had Shinjin when I didn't. So I'm not, maybe in different ways than we're talking about, but I've had a good handful of occasions where I did that, in different ways, and I'm trying to convince myself, and then that comes out to others, that you're, so I wasn't wantonly being deceptive, but on purpose to others, but I had deceived myself. So,
and then if
I'm deceiving myself, then I'm going to be portraying that. So, I'm obviously not giving a genuine,
Right.
portrayal. I don't even know it. So, anyway.
But then you also, if you're in a group where that's kind of thing is, there's sort of peer pressure, so to speak, then you have
There is.
you have the obligation to keep up the.
Yeah.
You want to please people, right? I mean,
No, exactly. There's both of the ones that I've been involved with. Again, I want to say I'm glad for them because I was able to learn to, at least learn the basics of the Dharma so that I could be where I am now with it. I think, and with my karmic causes brought me there. I'm not blaming them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not, my karmic causes brought me to their doorstep and into their, into their groups and their, but I did because I encountered them, and that was the way I think AMida used that to get me on the path, get me solidly on the path, where I am now. I think that's, AMida used, AMida's, supreme ultimate upaya, used those groups in those situations. But there was that people pleasing from, again, I own that, that's me trying to be part of and, trying to look, I want to be the upstanding member, and you know what I mean? All of that. And, I want to have Shinjin. So, got to keep this going. Maybe I don't, but I, but so I take that. That was me, that was me doing that. So, but the conditions were, it's kind of, the conditions of those groups are kind of encouraging, which is unfortunate or encouraged.
Yeah, indeed.
So,
well, so should we maybe continue the conversation next week with, we could do more topics on television and movies and so on.
Yeah, definitely. I've got like 3 or 4 more that I was going to try to,
great.
I should have realized that we would spend a whole just on the one, around the topics of just the one, thing I was going to raise and sort of bring into the conversation. So that's what we'll do in the future. I'll start with one of my, TV, popular culture, TV, movie, or song reference, and we'll just use just that one, have that be the thread for that discussion.
Yeah, and I'll try to bring in as much, if something associates with or there's some connection to be made with, what I know of the teaching and the text, we can definitely bring it and tie it in.
That's the whole idea. It's the whole purpose of the whole thing. It's a discussion. I'm not, this isn't a channel to be, to discuss movies. This is a channel to discuss Jodo Shinshu teaching, authentic Jodo Shinshu teaching, and my journey in it, and our, discussions and enthusiasm for the Dharma. The Dharma enthusiasts.
Exactly, Dharma enthusiasts. And if I successfully receive Tokudo, then I will be a Dharma professional, as Fujihara said.
He's so amazing. That'll be so cool. So, all right. Well, this has been fantastic.
Yeah, should we close
so much? Yes, please. I in my rush trying to get ready to get into this meeting, I didn't bring my
don't worry about it
with you. So you're like me, you'll have more than you probably have more than enough for both of us.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo.
All right.
Thank you again. Great discussion. Very fun too. Very fun.
Nice. Very fun. Very
very, and so much comes out of it. I didn't even, you don't even think of. You don't. That's what's great. Dharma
Yeah.
dialogue. It just,
Indeed.
yeah. All right. Take
All
care.
right.
All the
Take
best.
care.
So
Enjoy your day.
now, next week,
Mm,
I'd like to get together, but I'm going to be getting ready to go to
Oh,
the
yeah,
States.
that's fine.
I'm going to be getting ready
Okay.
to go to the States that week. But I still want to. So let's plan on it for now. And then as
Okay.
the week progresses, I'll let you know if.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. All
Thank
right.
you. Take care.
Enjoy your day.
Bye for now.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.